Right now, the average American is keeping less than 3 cents of every dollar they take home after taxes. A year ago, it was closer to 6 cents. You didn't get lazier in 12 months. You didn't suddenly start spending on purpose. Something else changed, and it's not something you can fix by working harder. Think about your own last 12 months. Maybe you got a raise. Maybe you picked up extra hours, started a side hustle, or finally asked for the number you'd been putting off. For a few weeks, it worked. The account looked healthier. Then the lease renewed higher. The same grocery order started ringing up heavier. Same cart, same brands. Gas climbed past $4 a gallon in a lot of the country this year, and it wasn't because you suddenly started driving more. One by one, the extra money got absorbed, until the raise you fought for just wasn't there anymore. If that sounds familiar, here's the first thing you need to hear. You're not bad with money. You're not undisciplined. You're up against something that was never going to lose to effort alone, no matter how hard you worked. Picture your paycheck as water being poured into a bucket every single month. For years, that bucket had a small leak near the bottom, slow enough that you barely noticed the water level dropping. What's actually happening right now is that the leak got wider. Prices are climbing faster than paychecks can refill the bucket. Average wages have been growing a little under 4% a year. Prices have been climbing almost exactly as fast, and in some recent months, slightly faster than that. On paper, that gap looks tiny, half a percentage point, maybe less. In your actual bucket, that's the difference between the water level holding steady and it quietly dropping, month after month, without you ever pouring in less than before. Housing is the biggest reason, and it's not close. It's the single largest slice of the average household budget, worth roughly a third of everything the government tracks when it measures how fast prices are rising nationally. Rent and mortgage costs have stayed stubborn even in months when other prices cooled off. Layer on gas prices that spiked this year during renewed conflict overseas, and grocery bills that never fully came back down from where they jumped a few years ago, and you get a very specific kind of pressure. It isn't one giant expense you can point to and blame. It's a dozen small ones, each a little higher than last year, quietly stacking on top of each other, until the paycheck that used to stretch 3 weeks now barely stretches 2.5. Here's the part almost nobody actually walks you through. If the money you do manage to save is sitting in a regular bank savings account, the default kind most people never think to change, you're very likely earning next to nothing on it. Somewhere around 0.5% a year is common. When prices are climbing close to 4%, the cash sitting in that account is losing real buying power every single year, even while the number on the screen slowly ticks upward. You could open your banking app, see your balance a little higher than last month, and still be poorer in what that money can actually buy than you were 12 months ago. That's not a mistake you made. That's the system working exactly the way it's built to work, quietly, while you're focused on your job, your bills, and everything else on your plate. This hits different depending on where you are in life, and if you're renting instead of owning, you're feeling more of it than most. Renters get squeezed harder because housing is their single biggest expense, and it resets constantly, while a homeowner with a fixed mortgage rate is somewhat protected from at least that one number climbing. If you're earlier in your career, you also likely have less already invested in things that tend to rise with or ahead of prices, like property or a stock portfolio, which means a bigger share of your financial life is sitting in cash, exactly the part inflation eats first. None of that is your fault. It's just math working against a specific starting point, and the earlier you understand that, the earlier you can start working around it instead of just absorbing it. So if working harder alone doesn't fix this, what actually does? It starts with just seeing the gap clearly, because most people who feel like they're falling behind have never once put their real raise next to their real cost of living and looked at the difference written out in plain numbers. From there, it's about where your money physically sits. Cash earning less than the pace prices are rising is money quietly losing a fight every single month. So moving even a portion of it into a higher yield savings account matters more than most people realize. Longer term, The only real defense is putting some portion of what you earn into things that have historically grown faster than prices over time, instead of letting all of it sit still waiting to be spent. That's not a guarantee. Markets move in both directions, but sitting entirely in cash while prices keep climbing is about as close to a guaranteed loss as personal finance gets. None of this means working hard doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But working hard was never actually designed to win this particular fight on its own, and expecting it to is exactly why so many genuinely hardworking people feel like they're falling behind despite doing everything they were told to do. Your paycheck isn't broken. The bucket just has a wider leak than it used to. Once you can actually see where that leak is, you can finally start patching it, instead of just working harder and hoping the math sorts itself out on its own. If this is the first time you've seen the real numbers behind that feeling laid out clearly, you're already ahead of where you were 5 minutes ago. Stick around, because next we're breaking down exactly where to put your money so it stops losing this fight quietly in the background, $1 at a time, without you ever noticing it happening.